Greetings and welcome back for another episode of HFY Storytime with me, your host, the Casual Deathworlder. Before we begin, let me take a few moments to give the obligatory like this video, comment on this video, subscribe to the channel, and more importantly, share this video with a friend, your mayor, or your congressman. Let's try to get this channel to 1,000 subscribers before Christmas. On deck today, we have Echoes of Something Greater by user Metadalf. The original story link is in the video description. Please follow it and give the author some love and support in the form of upvotes or comments. While you're at it, be sure to check out my Patreon channel. Consider becoming a subscriber and help keep my editor energized with fried pizza and beer. Seriously, he's a large part of what makes this channel work. The link is in the video description and in the channel description on both YouTube and Rumble. Also in the channel description, you can find an invite link to our Discord channel. Come hang out with us. And lastly, a quick shout out to my Tier 3 and 4 patrons. Russ of the Frozen North, Neo5AC, Nick, Zachary Langmead, Scared Wolf 1206, and Zachery Raney. Thank you very much. Now, on with the story. Echoes of Something Greater by user Metadalf. Chapter 1. Discovery. Dr. Callan Work had listened to space for 20 years. Not in the romantic sense, of course. The universe didn't sing. It hummed. Microwave residue from the Big Bang, background hiss of stellar radiation, the cosmic murmur of ancient silence. It was comforting in a way, predictable, silent, until it wasn't. It began with a repeat signal, a cluster of pulses embedded in white noise just past the edge of the Kuiper belt. Not strong enough to be intentional, just random enough to be natural. Rourke would have dismissed it if it hadn't repeated. Not hours later. Years. You ran the timestamp? Callan asked, eyes locked on the scrolling data. Twice, said Liz, his grad student, handing over a printed spectral readout. The exact same pulse structure, every bit identical to the one recorded 6 years ago. Callan frowned. Space wasn't supposed to echo. He stared at the numbers, then again at the waveform overlay. The signal was narrowband, nestled in a dead zone, a part of the spectrum so quiet that even cosmic dust barely whispered through it. No Doppler shift, no decay, just perfect symmetry. A time capsule, flung out and returned. He leaned closer. What's the probability that this is a sensor artifact? Liz shrugged, hesitant. Less than 1 in 50 million. I triple-checked. Different instruments, same result. We caught something. Callan rubbed his jaw. 6 years ago, they were still recalibrating the new deep sweep protocols. He remembered the original anomaly, a curiosity flagged and buried. No clear source, no directionality, just odd. Now it was back, unchanged. Okay, he said quietly. Let's run it through Fourier again. Full deconvolution. Add frame sync on the back end and look for sidebands. If it's artificial, it'll have echoes. Liz hesitated. You think it's a signal? I think it's something that doesn't belong, he replied. He didn't say what he really feared, that it was never meant to be found, that something was reflecting Earth's own voice back at it. He sat down at the console, heart picking up a pace. Somewhere, out beyond the veil of Saturn and cold stone ice, something had remembered what Earth said 6 years ago, and now it was answering. The readings didn't make sense. Chapter 2. Observation. Callan stood alone in the data room after Liz left for the evening, the low hum of the server racks providing an artificial heartbeat. He'd been over the signal a dozen times already, adjusting for solar wind distortion, subtracting background radiation, even simulating exotic particle interference just to explain it away. But the signal stayed. It stayed perfect. He projected the pulse cluster onto the dome, 20 meters of curved display wrapping around him in dim blue and red. The pulses weren't linear. Not quite. The spacing had minute modulations, the kind that reminded him of early optical character recognition distortions, like someone trying to preserve legibility across lossy mediums, or preserve meaning across time. He rotated the structure, aligned it against the galactic plane, That's when he saw it. The pulse chain bent into a loop. Not a spiral, a loop. Closed, self-referencing. The same digital structure at the beginning appeared at the end, with time-corrected adjustments too deliberate to be natural. He froze. "This isn't a signal," he whispered. "It's a checksum." Something was verifying integrity. But what? He ran a comparative overlay between the 6-year-old signal and the new one. Identical, except for a single frame. One burst, 9 milliseconds long, with slightly elevated amplitude. Rourke zoomed in. The waveform jittered oddly, compressed at the center, then blooming. It didn't look like interference. It looked like a header, a flag, a handshake. He saved the frame, encrypted the drive, and wrote down the pattern on a notepad. Then he sat back and felt something icy settle in his chest. It wasn't just repeating the signal. It had modified it, acknowledged it. He leaned forward, voice hoarse. "Someone or something is out there. And it remembers us." Chapter 3. Ghostlight. At 3:14 a.m., the system flagged a checksum anomaly. Nothing unusual at first glance. A corrupted log packet from one of the old archive nodes, buried in routine spectrographic telemetry. Normally, Rourke would have ignored it. But his instincts had gone feral these past few days. He bypassed the automated cleanup routine and pulled the raw data, 1.6 megabytes. No identifying header. The packet structure made no sense. Compressed, nested, recursive. Not the shape of a damaged file, but a caged one, as if something had folded itself inward to avoid being seen. He isolated a slice and ran it through a raw frame visualizer. It choked once, twice, then spit out noise. Grayscale chaos, interlaced static, and in the middle of it, something stopped him. A flicker. He scrubbed back, froze it. There, caught mid-frame, barely half-formed, was a hallway. Long, curved, lit from above by thin bars of light that pulsed rhythmically, like breathing. The resolution was poor, corrupted around the edges, but the geometry made his stomach twist. Nothing on Earth looked like that. He advanced by frames, manually. 4 seconds in, a figure stepped into view. Tall, upright, humanoid. Human? The video buckled around it. Artifacts bloomed where the head moved. The face was wrong. Not in form, but in clarity. Too smooth. Too blank. As if the recording had been forced to blur it. Still, there were eyes and a mouth. The figure walked towards the camera. The background behind it stretched and warped like it was resisting inspection. Walls crawled subtly, like muscle tissue responding to light. There was no sound, no metadata, no embedded timecode. The video began to degrade. Before it collapsed entirely, Rourke caught a glimpse, a brief, terrible glimpse, of the face turning fully towards the lens. It looked human. Not alien, not synthetic, human. But what gnawed at him wasn't just the image. It was the impossibility of it. If this was human, truly human, then it begged a question far worse than alien life. Where had they gone? He ran database queries, archival matches, facial structure scans. Nothing. Whoever this was, whatever ship or station that footage came from, it didn't exist in any Earth registry. Not in history. Not in theory. Which left only one answer. Earth wasn't alone in the galaxy. Earth had been isolated from the rest of humanity. And then the footage dissolved into entropy. Rourke stared at the frozen frame. A hallway of alien design. A figure walking confidently through it, and a human face, glitched at the edges like it was too true to be recorded. No context, no explanation, no signal trail. Just a leak, a mistake. And the sense, crawling across his skin, that something watching Earth had made an error. Not in what it had sent, but in what it had let slip. Chapter 4. Scrubbed Clean. Rourke had stopped pretending to sleep. The dome lab was down to emergency power, and he was living on canned espresso, gut instinct, and paranoia. Somewhere above him, the signal still pulsed in the deep, coiled and waiting like a question with too many teeth. He went back to the raw logs, the noise most researchers never bothered to look at. Packet bleed, sensor mismatch buffers, error correction tailings. Garbage mostly, but one fragment caught his eye. A jittery stream of symbols tucked inside a timestamp offset. It wasn't binary. Not exactly. And it definitely wasn't Earth standard encoding. He isolated the fragment and ran it through everything he had. Compression heuristics, statistical language models, even genetic sequence parsers, just to be thorough. It shouldn't have returned anything. But it did. A pattern emerged. Partial segments, recurring glyphs, floating numerics. What little structure remained suggested some kind of log stream. System diagnostics, maybe. And observers running commentary. And amid the static, phrases surfaced. Host mind drift noted. Containment error threshold. Approaching. Cognitive breach vector. Environmental consistency still within tolerance. Suggest observation suspension pending further deviation. Rourke stared, breath shallow. It wasn't the language that got him. It was the framing. Containment. Deviation. Host mind. Whoever, or whatever, was writing this wasn't monitoring Earth. They were managing it. It wasn't just surveillance. This was internal reporting, notes on behavior, status updates. He sifted deeper, reconstructing timeframes. The stream referenced earlier deviations decades ago, isolated cases, premature individual events, symbolic feedback loops exceeding threshold. Every single time the cycle was corrected, normalized. Except now, it wasn't. Now, the logs were beginning to show indecision, conflict. Whoever was reading them, whoever needed these logs, was worried. Rourke sat back, eyes wide. They were watching humans, specifically this kind of human, the unaware, unevolved, feral kind. A type, a sample. He felt the pieces locked together. Earth wasn't a cradle. It was a holding cell, a test bed, a zone seeded with minds stripped of history, stripped of memory, monitored to monitor behavior under artificial limitations. Humanity had long since evolved past this, transcended it, expanded, maybe even forgotten it. But someone hadn't. Someone else had preserved this shard of the old kind, stolen it to study what had made humans dangerous. And now one of them, Rourke, has started to wake up. He wiped his hands on his coat, heart hammering. They hadn't just hidden Earth from the stars. They'd hidden it from humanity. They'd hidden humanity from itself. And if they were discussing shutdown, that meant they feared what might happen if Earth was seen. What they feared more than anything was that greater humanity might hear about us, and it might come looking. Chapter 5. Fracture Horizon. The sky broke first. It started as a shimmer, barely susceptible distortions at the edges of the atmosphere, like heat haze on glass. Then came the lights, points that didn't move like satellites, that didn't drift like stars. They waited, positioned, orbiting Earth at impossible velocities and impossible angles. Within hours, every communications array on the planet experienced silent collapse. Rourke stood at the top of the observatory, surrounded by dead monitors. No updates, no emergency broadcast system, no satellites reporting back, no ISS ping. Just silence. And the fleet. Not one or two, hundreds, thousands. Warships the size of mountain ranges, slipping into local space with no entry trails, no sound, no ceremony. They blinked in as if space had simply admitted them. Some hovered just outside the mesosphere. Others loomed at lunar distance. All identical in design, grotesquely elegant, built around crystalline lattices and bioreactive hulls, adorned with structures that grew like bone or coral. They radiated intent. Not diplomacy, not curiosity, erasure. The aliens hadn't sent a delegation. They'd sent an execution squad. Rourke could feel the panic ripple across the world. The internet staggered on in fragments. Posts, grainy phone videos, emergency beacons. Most people didn't even have time to form a theory. A global military scramble began, then was gone in minutes. Any jet or satellite that attempted a launch was simply plucked from the sky. This wasn't war. It was cleaning up a mess. He stumbled back into the dome lab. All redundant systems were gone. No satellite access, no network uplink. Whatever Earth had once believed was autonomy, it was now clear. The systems were rented. The sky was leased. The power was illusion. But he still had the array. Not much of it. A few fringe receiver nodes on a separate line. Manual rangefinder for calibration, old enough to be disconnected from the mainframe. The rest of the world was watching the end. He was going to try something else. Rourke opened the loop checksum again. The first signal, the response, the echo. And he did something desperate. He modulated it, folded it backwards, inverted the loop, embedded new content into its structure. Not in the pulse, but in the timing. He layered entropy with intent. He didn't know if the code would be legible. He didn't know who would even be able to see it. But it carried the only message that mattered. Human mind here, not blind, not dead, recognize us. He sent it across every low-frequency deep space channel that still hummed. Then he sat back, staring at the sky above. Dozens of the ships had begun to glow. The signal was out. He didn't know if it would be received. But if there was something out there, something that had once come from Earth or from minds like his, it might hear it. It might come. And if it didn't, then at least he wouldn't die quietly. Chapter 6. First Fire. The first impact came without warning. No flare, no projectile, just a flash in the upper atmosphere. Then Shanghai was gone, consumed in a column of expanding white, like the hand of God pressing his thumb into the planet. Rourke fell to the floor as the tremor reached the observatory a full 12 seconds later. Glass cracked overhead. Power surged and died. The emergency generator coughed to life somewhere below. He crawled to the nearest terminal, rebooted the passive receiver node. The screen sputtered. Local feeds were gone. So were the satellites. But one system, the old hardline interferometer array, was still up, still listening. He barely registered the second blast. New Delhi vanished from a satellite replay buffer. Then Kinshasa, then Sao Paulo. Massive targeted destruction. No hesitation. No pattern beyond density and coordination. The aliens had begun to wipe Earth clean. Every response, every defense was irrelevant. Rourke knew it instinctively. This wasn't a battle. This was a reset, an extinction-level erasure to restore a controlled state. And now they were making sure that no one would ever do it again. He was alone in the dome. Liz was gone, evacuated maybe, or ash. The sky burned over the horizon. Ash drifted on the air outside. Rourke ignored it. He stared at the last console still running. One band, deep range, ultra-low frequency was flaring. Not noise, not a loop, a pulse. A single repeating beat. 4 seconds between. Then 3. Then 2. Growing stronger. Not alien. It didn't carry language. It didn't carry code. It was simpler than that. A presence. A massive field distortion riding on something so old, so precise, it shouldn't have existed anymore. Quantum beaconing. He watched the signal strengthen, bending the array's instruments, interfering with local magnetics, flickering lights in the dome. It wasn't talking. It was coming. His hands shook as he stared at the waveform. Its structure was tight, elegant, familiar in a way nothing else had been. He didn't know what form it would take, what they would look like, or even if they remembered what Earth was. But someone had heard him, and they were close enough now to answer. Chapter 7. The Arrival. The sky tore open. It was not light that came through, nor thunder, nor flame. It was something deeper, a sensation in Rourke's bones, like gravity had found new alignment. Every screen failed. Every measurement returned 0. The Earth stilled. Then above the ruins of the thermosphere they arrived. Not from any direction. They simply were. And then they were here. The alien fleet froze. A silence passed through them. No longer the confident stillness of dominance, but a pause of recognition. Rourke stood alone on the scorched rim of the observatory, ash clinging to his coat. His skin prickled. The air buzzed. The frequency he'd tracked had stopped pulsing because the signal no longer needed to be sent. Its source had arrived. The sky darkened, not with storm, but shadow. Geometry unfolded where space should be empty. Machines that were not machines. Structures built not with steel, but intention. Moving forms that bent reality softly around them. They did not fire. They did not speak. They simply entered. And the alien fleet began to die. Not in fire, not in chaos, they just ceased. One by one, matter collapsed, folded inwards. Ships blinked out like someone had flipped a cosmic switch and declared, "You are not permitted here." The last one to remain hovered above Earth's northern pole. It did not flee. It surrendered. The great vessel shuddered and turned belly up as if exposing its throat. The sky rippled. The final ship folded and vanished. Silence returned. Except now, something else remained. A single form descended from the fractured sky. Not a shuttle, not a craft, but a presence, shaped like a person, only because Rourke's mind couldn't process anything else. They landed without sound in the clearing below the dome. Neither man nor woman, clad in a living second skin that shimmered without life. Their face was calm, not cold, not curious, just still. Rourke stumbled down the hill, glass and soot crunching under his boots. He didn't know what to say. He didn't have to. The being turned to him, not through him, but with him. Their eyes met, and in that gaze, Rourke felt something crack open inside him, a recognition deeper than language. Not familiarity, ancestry. In that brief, wordless exchange, he remembered. Not his own life, not even Earth's, but something larger, older. A shape of thought he'd never known, blooming like heat through frozen veins. "Welcome back," Rourke whispered, hoarse voice. The figure tilted their head, an echo of human motion, imperfect, inherited. "Not back," they said. "Found." A pulse passed through Rourke, electrical, emotional, true. Not a psychic wave, not a transmission, just contact. And with it came understanding. Not in detail, but in frame. They hadn't abandoned Earth. they had never known it existed. It had been taken, stolen, hidden beneath 1,000 layers of deception, stripped of memory and context, seeded with lives that never questioned why. Now, at last, humanity had seen what had been done, and it had come. Not with wrath, not with sorrow, but with the full weight of recognition. Humanity had returned, and Earth was no longer alone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am the Casual Deathworlder, your host, and this has been Echoes of Something Greater by user Metadalf. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. If you did, please go ahead and smash those like and subscribe buttons and maybe drop us a comment down below. Anything to help the algorithm. Actually, we might even accept virgin sacrifices at this point. And before I get any further, a huge shout out to my editor, Greygor. Thank you very much, buddy. I couldn't do this without you. Okay, if any of y'all have any specific stories you'd like me to read, send me a link and I will contact the author and see if he's willing for me to do it. Okay, question, who's got the question? Okay, your all-time favorite musician. Let me think. I think, personally, for me, I'm going to have to go with Journey. And if not Journey, then Josh Groban. Leave your answers in the comments down below. Until next time, be safe, be well. I love you all. Bye-bye. Okay, Greygor, we're back. We're bad. You're a Brit. I'm mad. It's time to do the thing.